Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 19th of July. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning, bright and breezy, by Joshua Barry. How are we doing, Joshua?
Yeah, good, Derek. Great to be back at Ibrox. Good game, fantastic occasion, obviously, for Alan McGregor, and watched the game back. And yeah, lots of interesting talking points. Only a friendly caveat, etc., but still good to have Rangers back and be able to talk about Rangers playing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It looked like an absolutely sensational atmosphere at Ibrox last night. Plenty to talk about from said game. Of course, it was Alan McGregor's testimonial. Great send-off for what is an absolute bona fide Rangers legend. It was great to see. Of course, he started the game, came off as a substitute just before half-time. To a rapturous applause came on after the game as well for the lap of honour. And it was really was a fantastic send-off he's received from the Rangers supporters. The Newcastle fans came up in numbers as well. I thought they were magnificent. 8,000 of them, no less. They are a cracking bunch, I've got to say, the Newcastle fans. They follow their team far, near and far, and they give their backing. Always remember covering a Leicester-Newcastle game once back in the day, and they were getting pumped 5-0. This was in the Steve Bruce days, and they were still singing their hearts out at the end of the game. It really was fantastic stuff. Joshua, Rangers lost the match 2-1. Sam Lammers, of course, scored a goal. It was sandwiched in between two Magpies goals from Almiron and Ashby. But it's all about, I guess, getting match sharpness, getting fitness against what is a top side that will be pushing for the top four again in the Premier League next season. What were your big takeaways from the game?
Yeah, I guess we can come on to talk about McGregor and his legacy, and now that he has played his testimonial, and that kind of marks the end of his time with the club. But I thought overall it was a good test for Rangers because they're probably not going to play a better team than that, and particularly if you look at to reach the Champions League, they're going to have to be really good off the ball. In the first half, I don't think they were. I think you could see that they're very narrow. Kind of, it felt like a bit of a hark back to a few seasons ago when at points they were too narrow, and that allowed teams to just switch play against them. And although I think you're protecting the centre at points, and that's fine. I think as the half wore on, you could see that Beale wanted to change things, eventually moved to that kind of more of a diamond shape, and I think that helped lead to the goal after the break with Lammers in there. Thought he improved things at number 10, especially off the ball as well, kind of set the press quite well. And obviously got his goal, which could be a really good moment for him. But you're not. There's obviously no real time to be critical, Derek, because it's pre-season, and Newcastle were the fourth best team in the Premier League last season. Really good pressing team, and I thought at points Rangers actually played out of that quite well at goal kicks, and as mentioned, they did come into the game more in the second half, when that change of shape helped. Obviously, only saw 4 new signings last night. Again, as we'll come on to, I think with the post-match press conference, and Dessers hopefully being fit for the weekend, amongst other things, you're going to see still quite drastically different Rangers compared to last season on the opening day against Kilmarnock. But some promising signs, I think, in amongst the new arrivals as well. I thought Lammers quietly had quite an effective game in the second half. Sima, you can see what he's going to bring. Didn't have much of an opportunity to really show that in the opposition final third. But I still thought he showed what he's going to bring in a physical sense, and his ability to stretch the game. Johnny and I were speaking about that last night. That it's easy to just when a player's physical or when they're a wide man, just kind of pigeonhole them into some sort of position. But I think you can see what he's going to offer Michael Beale as a profile. And then maybe, with Alan McGregor, that being his final game, you look around at that starting 11 and you think how many more additions are going to be in before Kilmarnock. But also, if you look at, I think Ridvan Yilmaz is definitely going to be the first choice left back. You'd hope there's a bit more movement in the centre of defence. Beale spoke about speaking to other strikers as well as wanting to add another midfielder in there last night. So, yeah, very much a start of pre-season, Derek, and I think a test that will probably, as cliche as it is, stand the Rangers in relatively good stead, because to reach the Champions League, they're going to have to be excellent off the ball, and a game like last night will probably help that.
Yeah, I thought Sam Lammers took his goal well. Of course, nipped in, picked the pocket of the Newcastle player before slotting the ball past the goalkeeper. And a few comments coming in just on Lammers. Impressed with his showing. I think we've spoke on record for a number of shows, Joshua, about how excited we are to seeing Sam Lammers in a Rangers jersey. He's someone that has suffered a bit of a crisis of confidence, if you like. Not quite Rabbi Matondo levels last season, I don't think, but he's been moved around a few clubs on loan. Michael Beale touched on it himself. He needs somewhere to call home, and he's certainly, the Rangers fans enjoyed watching him last night. I think he's going to be a big player next season. Well, this season, shall we say?
We're in this season territory now.
Yeah.
I agree with you, and I don't think that's the type of game that necessarily suits him down to the ground, because I think he'll be better when Rangers have a lot of the ball. When it's and you actually saw that in the first half. The only two moments the Rangers had, and one was a Kieran Dowell shot, and the other was it was Lammers that got a shot after good interplay with Cantwell. The moves, the shots only came about because, and it was him that started the move and then managed to find a little bit of space for his teammates. As mentioned, I think he's going to be better when he is in games where he has it his way and he has a lot of the ball, and that'll be the majority of the football that he plays domestically. In Scotland, interestingly, Beale, speaking after the game, said he's not going to be a main number 9. So if you think of a Dessers, he's going to be your kind of focal point number 9. If you're thinking of Rangers playing a 2 or playing 2 off a main striker, Lammers is either going to play as that number 10. He's going to play as a second striker, and that will give him the ability to come and get involved. And, he's more naturally inclined to move towards the ball and play in between the pockets. But then I think importantly, what will be important for him hopefully this season is being given the license, but also the instruction to really get in the box as well. Because if you have someone like Lammers at number 10, who's going to give you, that's probably the postman, who's going to give you...
Do you want to get the door?
No, I think hopefully a neighbour picks up, who leaves, say he scores 10 to 15 goals. I don't think you can overestimate just how big an issue it was for Beale when he arrived last season, that he really had nothing up front. He had no dependable numbers, and if you're going to have goal scoring numbers at number 10 alongside two ahead of you, then I think that's a real promising thing ahead of the new season.
Was that the sound of a parcel being posted through your letterbox there, Joshua?
I think it might have been, and I'm just trying to think what I've ordered. So
yeah, we're all intrigued. I'd like to know what it is.
Might be my better half, but yeah, to be revealed tomorrow, maybe.
Wow, we're on tenterhooks. Lots of comments coming in. I want to get to a few of them and pose them to you, Joshua. Logan No Fingers says, I didn't think we played well at all last night. The new shape and system felt awkward. Still early days, though, and fully trust Beale to get it right. I think that's important to stress. I mean, it is a pre-season friendly. It's important not to look too much into these matches. It's all about gaining match sharpness, and it's a chance for Michael Beale to try things out, different formations and systems and what have you. We'll touch on Yanis Hadji shortly, because he was getting a lot of plaudits last night, playing a sort of deeper role. But do you take this point on board, Joshua? It's important, I think, not to get too carried away by a pre-season friendly against a Champions League side, and a side who can spend copious amounts of money on players, and they'll be, as I mentioned earlier on, pushing for the top 4 and perhaps above in the Premier League next season.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they spent 55 million on Sandro Tonali this summer. I mean, this is a team that's in a complete different league. If it was, Manchester United or Liverpool, then there'd be the preconception that it's just because Newcastle are still a relatively new top 4 club again. And then if you look at the context of the last few years, but yeah, speaking last night with Johnny, I think in pre-season you can't really tell how well a team's going to do maybe over the course of the season, but you can see what they're trying to do, see some of the ideas that they're trying to put in place. And I do think that there was some teething issues off the ball in the first half, but then again, that's what these games are for. It's to try things out. I'd imagine that managers will put players in situations where they're testing them in certain certain quarters of the game, or maybe they want to try new things. You mentioned Yanis Hadji coming on deeper there. We saw, I think, a couple of shape changes in the first half, and obviously both teams made so many changes. They bring on a lot of quality. Isaac and Anthony Gordon at the break, and Bruno at the base of midfield as well, which isn't a bad trio to have to bring on off the bench. So yeah, I agree with you, Derek. You can't tell, I think, how well a team's going to do from pre-season, with maybe some exceptions. But you can see roughly what they're trying to do, and it's important to note that this is the start of pre-season, not the end. Rangers, what's the date now? July 8th, 19th. It's a long way until August 5th, where you'd hope that there'd be more additions in, but also the team will be better versed in what the manager wants to do, because they'll have done it in the game. Beale spoke about that after the game last night, going from playing a third tier Bundesliga team or a third Bundesliga team in Germany behind closed doors to a Champions League team in the space of a few days is quite the jump in pre-season. But ultimately, that's what it's all about, I guess, trying to test yourself in these environments.
Yeah.
And again, especially ahead of these pre-season games, I think that type of game will be a real good test for Rangers.
Yeah, and I'm sure by the time, Hamburg we've got at the weekend, which should be another cracking game. Cannot wait for that one. Yeah. Olympiacos and then Hoffenheim. I'm sure by the Hoffenheim game, the team will be well oiled and drilled and ready for the season beginning for real. Let's get to a few of the comments. Just on Hagi, Joshua, what did you make of him in his performance in that sort of deep lying role? Is that perhaps something we might see more often, do you reckon? I know his lack of pace is something that has been levelled at him at times in that sort of forward role. But perhaps in that deeper lying playmaker role, is that possibly the future for him?
Yeah, well, Beale was asked about that after the game, and he said that especially in game, it's obviously something they've been thinking about, because especially in games where you have a lot of the ball, you don't want your creative, I think he said, you don't want your creative players playing with their back to goal. You want them playing with their kind of front to goal and with a view of the pitch ahead of them. And perhaps that suits Hagi a little bit more. I don't think his strength is necessarily turning and chasing balls in behind or stretching the game. I think he's a player who, when we interviewed him for the website, when he was speaking about his best position, he came back to what his best role was, and he said it's in the centre when he's got runners ahead of him, when he's getting on the ball as often as possible. And I do think, again, he did well with the caveat that the game was quite tired by then, so probably not a fantastic environment to judge him within, but you're right. I think you can see how that might suit him, that deeper lying role in the midfield. And, it's a big season for him, because what age is he now? 24, 25. He's come back from that really, really difficult injury where he's lost a year and a half, which must be really difficult for any football player. And I think what is a good situation for Rangers to have with, Tom Lawrence potentially in contention for the weekend. You've got Alex Lowry there as well. So much competition is something that, as we've repeated throughout the summer, Derek, Rangers and Beale didn't have last season. So I think it is a role that could potentially suit Hagi. Because also, if you look at that number 10 position, how many minutes is he going to get there, especially if that's where Lammers plays the majority of his domestic football?
Yeah. We're always thankful for donations, folks. You can donate to the channel, and Magic Man 147 has done just that. Thank you very much, buddy. It's very much appreciated. He says, surely Ridvan will be first choice, offers variety, more aggressive in and out of possession, and Hagi, Cantwell, Lawrence, Lammers, Lowry. Too many tens, he says. We'll answer the first point first, Joshua. Borna coming in for a bit of criticism, few comments coming in. Not too enamoured with his performance last night. We know he has been linked with a move away. He's in the final year of his contract. I think it surprised some that he started last night. Ridvan, of course, came on. Ridvan is my first choice, heading barring any injuries or anything untoward when the season kicks off away at Rugby Park, Joshua. Borna, though, is what can you see happening with regards to that? Can you see him moving on, or is he one you think might be sticking around? And who is your first choice left back for when the league begins in just under a month's time?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on Ridvan, because I think what he gives you is, if you look at where Barisic got caught for that goal, he'd almost been caught a couple of times before, because I think he's quite reliant on using his left foot. Sometimes that can get him into a bit of bother, whereas Ridvan, he's not right-footed, and I don't think I'm not saying he's brilliant passing with his right foot, but he's quite quick and agile, isn't he? So if he's under pressure, he can kind of evade it by running inside the pitch. And I think in all positions at points, Derek, you just need freshness, don't you? There's a reason that clubs don't have a player in the same position now for 10, 12 seasons. Not only is it, are you playing so many games, the scrutiny is so great. And I think for Barisic, how many years has he been here now? It was 5 seasons. I
think since when Gerrard came in, he joined shortly after, didn't he? After beating Osijek. So what was that? 2018. So 5 years.
And you've also got to look at his contract being up the end of this season. We spoke about it earlier in the week. At the age he's at, if Ridvan's going to be first choice, will he want to go and play Premier League football? On the other side of things, do you perhaps keep him as a backup because he offers you that quite unique crossing ability that could come in useful against certain defences? I think that Ridvan will definitely be first choice. I think he has to be because of the money that Rangers have spent on him, but also because of what he gives you. I think he raises the energy level and he just plays the left back role slightly differently. And again, Barisic throughout his time at Rangers, his final ball ability has won games. Obviously, in the title winning season, it was so important, but you've just got to evolve at the right time as well, and that's what this summer has been all about. So I think, like you in the majority of comments, I'd be surprised if Ridvan isn't the first choice left back, more because it's about upgrading at the right time and refreshing key positions. And Rangers spent a lot of money on him almost a year ago, and I think we're still to really see a full run of games where we see what he's all about, and hopefully this pre-season allows him to start the season strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge thanks to Glasgow Rangers Nation as well for donating £2. He says that Rangers need to tie Rice down to a long-term deal. He's a top player, is Beale Rice. I think he's going to. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him next season. Josh, just before we go back to the point about the number 10s, Beale Rice next season, do you think he'll play more of a role in that first team, or can you see him possibly being sent out on loan?
So again, it's also hard to know in pre-season, isn't it? Because managers are looking at players, and you're going to play regardless, probably because you want to get your fitness up. But that's not to say that I think Beale Rice is someone who definitely will be a regular in the Rangers first team at some point. I guess it's all about timing when that is. If not, he needs games, and you've got the best v best program with the B team. But would Rangers deem a loan more suitable? I, like most people, have a complete bias towards left-footed midfielders. So I agree with your assessment of Beale Rice. I think he's someone that what stood out to me, again, we had an interview with him on the website maybe 2 months ago when he was in Scotland duty, and it was Ewan who spoke to him. But I think what came across reading it was he spoke about the importance of when you go into a first team environment, and bear in mind he's 16 at the time, and it was around the time where he'd captained the under-19s one day and played away at Livingston, made his debut the day after. But he was just reiterating that you can't go into your shell when you go into these environments. It's all about trying to seize your opportunity. And I think for a 16-year-old, he spoke like a much more mature football player. So that certainly bodes well. I guess it depends on where the minutes come this season. Beale did say, speaking in the press conference after the game, which we can come on to a little bit later, that he thinks Rangers need one more midfielder. And there, I thought we're asking when he came on last night.
Again, different class.
Yeah, with all the usual caveats, but I just think he changes the dynamic of that midfield so much, doesn't he? Because he can just kind of control the space around them. He can pass his way out of trouble. He can carry his way out of trouble. And again, really looking forward to seeing him over the course of a full season, because I kind of feel like he will be Rangers' most important player, perhaps over the next season, just in that midfield area. It's somewhere where I think they've needed, a real investment of talent at the base midfield for a while. And part of me just feels that it might be a season or two you have with Nico Raskin at Ibrox, because I do think he's that good.
Yeah, him and Cantwell I put in the same bracket. I reckon if they have a good 6 months to a season, there's going to be a queue of clubs looking to take them both off Rangers' hands. But let's hope they do have a cracking season. It means that the club hopefully are doing well as well. But they're two brilliant players, brilliant additions back in January. I'm looking forward to seeing more of both, and the other new signings as well, of course. Question that came in there just on the young lad, Ifeko. It says, is Bassi Mark II? Mark Wilson says, thought he did well, the young lad. Good. And then the comment here from Alexander, he looked promising. Can he be back up left back to Ridvan? Suddenly you're perhaps overstocked there. You've got Ridvan that can play here. Ifeko's there. Adam Devine, of course, we know can play there. Dujon Sterling can play there. We know that they've been linked with Jonathan Panzo as well, who can play on that left-hand side. So you're all of a sudden a bit stacked with players over in that left back position there, Joshua.
I thought he passed the ball really well. He came on with maybe 20 minutes to go of the game, and I thought he looked confident in the ball. Again, I think being a left footer helps you a lot, probably as a young defender, because it gives you that kind of USP, doesn't it? Something unique about you, and managers like left footers. So I thought over the course, actually, that the rest of the defence defended the box pretty well. Leon Balogun came on, and he was slotted in quite seamlessly. Had that one clearance that he didn't manage to clear, and went across the face of the box. But that side was it was a pretty quiet game for him. So yeah, you got to see I guess a lot of different elements of the squad, and you're right there. I mean, the squad still is too bloated. Again, Beale was asked about Scott Wright after the game. He was asked about Glenn Kamara, who didn't travel to Germany because he had a sickness bug. But is expected to be back. I think Beale said you can watch that on the YouTube channel, the full press conference there. But yeah, there is going to be outgoings, because if those 2 or 3 that Beale was talking about last night are still to come in, you need space for them in the squad. And at the moment, I think Rangers squad's still a little bit too bloated.
Yeah, on Scott Wright, Michael Beale was asked about that. He wants regular game time. You can't promise him that. So I think it was reported yesterday. Pendix Spor over in Turkey keen on Scott Wright. A fee, I believe it's £500,000 has been agreed. So it's all about whether the player was wanting to move out there. Glenn Kamara, a number of clubs keeping tabs on him. I would be majorly surprised if he's part of the squad going into the forthcoming season. Just going back to the point about the number 10s as well, I can't find the comment for the life of me, Joshua, but there was
basically there's a lot of them, isn't there?
But there's one name in there I wanted to bring up, which is Tom Lawrence. Now, very encouraging noise coming out of the Rangers camp with regards to Tom Lawrence. Michael Beale said that he should be available for the weekend, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, he said. I think he caveated with the fact that Lawrence was obviously very keen to get back in the pitch, and when a player's been out for so long, you might need to hold them back at certain points just to make sure they're absolutely ready. But it'd be fantastic to see him back when he does get back, because it'll have almost been a year. I think it'll have been about 11 months since Tom Lawrence.
End of August, he limped off against Ross County,
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know how important a player he's going to be this season. I think that we need to see more of him, because we only saw 3-4 games of him in a Rangers shirt, and also we haven't seen him under Michael Beale. But again, to have that option in there, I think someone who will again probably give you that profile of arriving in the box late, which Rangers have maybe lost a little bit with Scott Arfield. But the injury update overall seemed to be pretty promising. You know, last season was totally unique, I think, with the nature of and just pure numbers of injuries that Rangers suffered, wasn't it? So you want as clean a bill of health going into these Champions League qualifiers as possible. And I think, you know, when we're talking this time next week, Derek, or in a couple of weeks after that game away at, is it Hoffenheim the 29th? I think the day after, day after our live show. Then, I think that the not only the squad, but I think the starting 11 will be starting to take a lot more shape, and the team that Beale's going to play for the start of the season away at Kilmarnock, but also those all important Champions League qualifiers will become a bit more apparent.
Yeah, that leads us nicely on. Thank you for reminding me, Joshua, about our live show. Of course, you can see the little ticker below, folks. We go live at New Edmiston House on Friday, the 28th of July. Myself, Joshua, Johnny, Stevie, and Barry Ferguson will all be in attendance as we discuss all things Rangers. We'll also chat to Barry about his 2 spells at Rangers as well, and what he thinks about the season ahead. There are still tickets available, I'm told. You can find them on the New Edmiston House website. The link is in the description box below, so do click that and it'll take you to the What's On guide. Just click on buy tickets, and it's as simple as that. Just £21.50. That includes the booking fee. We've got loads of prizes to give away as well. It'd be great to see you all there. I know so many of you have already said you'll be heading along on Friday evening. Doors open at 6:30. So cannot wait to see you all there. It's going to be fantastic. There's a comment that came in there from World's Greatest DJ. Can you pay at the gate for the live show? I don't believe so.
No, I think get the tickets, I think is the advice, Derek, on that.
Yeah, I don't believe so. I'm not 100% sure there, but you've been advised to get the tickets online before heading along to the event. But I'll double check that anyway. Back to the football, Joshua. There's so many comments coming in. Let's talk transfers and what Michael Beale touched on last night. Dean Milne says, exciting when Beale name checks Danilo and Cifuentes. It usually means they're coming. Now, Michael Beale was asked about this in the post-match press conference. It was quite interesting, actually, just before we talk about the transfers, Joshua, down pitch side, because the press room has been done up.
Yeah, well, the new press facilities are excellent at Ibrox. We were in them last night, but I believe there's a new press conference area being being built. So hence why we're down there, returns to the kind of COVID era. But I think only for 1 or 2 games. But yeah, new press facilities are very good and a lot more space, which is always nice.
Yeah, absolutely superb. So he was asked about Danilo. Beale said Danilo is a player we like. I think a lot of people like him. He's not the only forward we're talking to. That's the one that seems to have been more public, but no news on it. Cifuentes is a player we like, and we're hoping that's one that can be moved on. I think we need to bring one more midfielder in. He's powerful and works the corridor. He can play deep or as a number 8 and work the box as well. But until he's here, these things can take a twist and a turn. So encouraging news, sort of as we were with Danilo, Joshua. Cifuentes is one that has been dragging along for some time, but it's clear that Rangers are keen to get him in as soon as possible. I'd imagine that'll be his business done, but when you're talking about the midfielders in that department, should he arrive.
Yeah, personally speaking, I'd still like to see a little bit more maybe in the defence as well. But if you're looking at adding Danilo, who would be, Beale did say he's not the only striker we're talking to, which is interesting. But the profile player that he is, kind of a pure number 9, a goal, maybe not pure number 9, but he's a goal scorer. He can play off the strikers as well. But I think he'd be in that Dessers mould of someone who played as, on the last line more often than not, more than Lammers, who'll maybe play a little bit deeper. We'll have a little bit more coming on him on the website soon, because I've been watching some of him this week, last season, especially at Feyenoord. And then Cifuentes, who, Johnny and I were saying that last night. I feel like we've been speaking about Cifuentes links for about 3 months. But and again, a different profile, someone who I think really is at his best probably in the final thirds for Rangers. But if you're looking at that midfield area at the moment, and obviously the improvement that Raskin brought off the bench, I agree that I think you're still probably one player away there from the full complement. And it's important. I think we sometimes think of you need huge numbers in case of injury, but if you've got someone like Raskin and Cifuentes, you'd be expecting them to play 40, 50, probably 50 games, the start of the majority of games. Cantwell will play deeper quite a lot as well. Barring injuries, exactly. But I think that will be good for people to hear, to see that the business isn't over, because everyone would probably agree that so far it's been really good. Lots of exciting signings, but need a little bit more to complete it. And certainly those 2 names, if you were to have given those names at the start of the transfer window with Cifuentes and Danilo on top, then I think you'd have probably satisfied quite a lot of the supporters.
Yeah, let's get to a few comments that come in just on the centre half. A lot agreeing with you, Josh. I agree too. I think they do need to bring in another centre back. Ian Thompson says, I think we need another central defender, Josh, although it must be sold. Said Davis and Suter did well last night. And Dean says, I definitely want a minimum of one more centre back, hopefully left-sided. Balogun will probably be left out of Euro registration. Not sure about that, but certainly people in agreement, we need another centre back. And just on Suter, Ross Craig saying, logged on late this morning and maybe already been said, but thought John Suter was very good. Keep him fit, and he's a massive player for Rangers this season. Couldn't agree more, Joshua. It's been great to see him. Of course, he played a number of games at the tail end of last season. He just looks like a class act, and we can see why Rangers brought him from Hearts at the time. He had his injury problems to begin with. I think he said it himself. He shouldn't have played in that opening game against Livingston last season. But if we can keep him fit, he's going to be a top player. And of course, with Goulton out for the foreseeable at the moment as well, then it's imperative we keep him fit and hopefully he can keep performing as he is doing.
Yeah, and wearing the number 5 shirt last night as well. Obviously, a change from last season, which I always like when a player changes numbers to a lower number, as a bit of a traditionalist in that sense. But always the caveat with Suter that you've got to keep him fit. Leon King obviously as well, the injury isn't as bad as first feared. So again, numerically, you're suddenly looking at the defence, you're thinking, okay, there's quite a lot of options in there. But I think on the topic of do you need more pace, maybe there's the argument the Rangers need, again, that profile of aggressive central defender. But I think Balogun offered Beale and Gerrard the first time round. I don't know if he's still got the mobility in the legs at 35 to really press up into the midfield often. He may well do, depends how much he plays. But I think there's still an argument that you need another profile central defender in there. Totally agree with you on Suter, though. I think one of his best qualities for me is the way that Rangers have defenders who can pass the ball, but what Suter gives you is an ability to carry the ball in midfield under pressure, which feels a bit risky at points, but really strong on the ball, which is obviously important when you're playing for Rangers.
Yeah, thanks to a few viewers who have alerted me to an infiltrator that found their way into the chat, but he's since been banned. So thank you very much for that. Just before we wrap up, as we mentioned, it was all about Alan McGregor last night, Joshua. Neil McLean says, I'm as rough as the goalie's glove this morning. Good night last night, cracking atmosphere. And last night here at World Great DJ, it was all about McGregor. He got a brilliant send-off. He absolutely did. He was speaking to Rangers TV as well last night, and he was asked what was next after Rangers. He said, I don't know. I can't say a shower again because I've had that already.
That was good.
That was quite funny. Of course, he said that after the game. When he played against, was it Hearts last season? I'm sure when we had the emotional send-off. I think, it was quite funny. So he says, no, I'm not sure. It's still been early, only 7 weeks. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. Something might come up, something might not. Do you think he'll join another club, Joshua? What's your gut feeling on that one, on Alan McGregor?
I'd be surprised. I mean, you never know, and from watching this interview, it seems like he didn't know either. But I guess when you've been in the limelight for so long, you definitely merit, I guess, a few months to work things out and take a bit of time away. Beale said after he's told him not to be a stranger. He's not becoming a coach at this moment in time, but he's certainly a player that the service he's given to the club over 2 seasons means that he'll always be a part of things, and fantastic for him to get that send-off, which he absolutely deserved. And I think you could see when he spoke before the game and after, he was saying that he didn't think it would be a sellout, and he got his moment after that lap of honour, which was really nice to see. So fantastic servant to the club over 2 spells. Obviously, we wish him all the best, and but I'm sure in a few months it will become apparent what his next move is. Until then, and maybe we'll take a bit of time to relax.
Yeah, I seen yesterday Gianluigi Buffon is still playing, 45 years of age at Parma, so still plenty of game time left in McGregor's legs. I'm sure somewhere else. I'm sure it'd be an asset if he wants to keep on playing. Just before we wrap up, in terms of, I know that we've done that little poll yesterday. Somebody's best saves in the Rangers jersey. Joshua, is there anyone that stands out for you as being the best save? There's so many, of course, but for me, I don't think anything tops Werder Bremen.
Yeah,
I know there's been top saves since then, but that was just absolutely incredible. I've never seen a save like that, to be honest. Any for you that stand out?
I think Bremen, because although the save in Slavia was so kind of, the post-match interview after it was as good as the save when he was asked how he saved it, and I think he just said he stuck a hand out. But I think the thing about the Bremen save was you just, on those type of moments, you just expect the ball to go into the back of the net, don't you? You almost don't allow yourself to think that the goalkeeper can save that. So that probably stands out for me. But I think over the course of the title-winning season, especially in that new-year-old firm as well, he just stepped up at big moments. Obviously saved that penalty at home to Red Star on the road to the Europa League the Europa League final. He made a big save at home against Sparta Prague in the final group stage game. And if he hadn't saved that, I think Rangers, I don't know if they wouldn't have went through in goal difference or if they'd have needed to beat Lyon. Or it was a big save regardless. So, so many big moments over 2 fantastic spells at the club, which he'll now have lots of time. He's been saying, for the last 2 seasons when he's been asked about his future, that it's just game, so he doesn't think about it. So I'm sure now he'll have some time to reflect and look back on what's been an absolutely fantastic contribution. I think the great shout as well, the penalty, another example of just a big moment where you could bank upon him to step up and save one, and to have a goalkeeper like that, was obviously fantastic for the club.
Yeah, there's so many top saves. He's been an absolutely sensational player for Rangers, and we wish him all the best with whatever he decides to do, whether in football or out with the game. Okay, folks, that'll do us there. Huge thanks to Joshua, as ever, and to everyone for interacting with the show. It's greatly appreciated. We'll be back again tomorrow to talk all things Rangers, as ever, as we look ahead to the game against Hamburg at the weekend as we head back to Ibrox once again. Before we go, Joshua, the singing section last night, what did you make of it?
Yeah, very good. I was at the other end. Obviously, full 8,000 Newcastle fans as well, which made for a good atmosphere. But yeah, it was interesting to see it in motion. Something that's obviously been talked about for a long time, and fantastic atmosphere all told for a first pre-season friendly.
Yeah, it certainly was. Okay, folks, we'll be back again tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Bye for now.